Right now in women's basketball, one name is shaking the entire sports world, Caitlin. Clark is not just a player, she is a phenomenon, and behind her explosive rise, there are secrets. No one is talking about the pressure, the criticism, the nonstop spotlight that follows her every move has created a storm of expectations, and yet somehow she keeps delivering performances that leave fans speechless tonight. We go beyond the highlights, beyond the headlines, and uncover the hidden habits, mindset, and brutal discipline that built her into a once-in-a-generation star. But what happens when the pressure becomes too heavy and the world starts demanding more than any athlete can give? Is Caitlin Clark truly in control of her destiny, or is she being pushed toward a breaking point that no one sees coming? Stay with us, because what you are about to hear could change everything. Asterisk, when you really look at the rise of Caitlin Clark, it doesn't feel like a normal sports story anymore. It feels like something built under pressure, almost like a controlled explosion happening in real time. From the outside, people see the logo threes, the long-range confidence, the sold-out arenas, the cameras always following her face. But what they don't see is how early it all started, how a kid from Iowa wasn't just playing basketball. She was studying attention, pressure, and expectation long before the world even knew her name. The first secret to her success isn't talent. That's the easy answer. The real secret is repetition under invisibility. Before she became a national headline, she was the player in empty gyms, shooting the same shots over and over again until her body stopped thinking and started reacting. While other athletes trained for performance, she trained for inevitability. Every movement was designed to become automatic. So when the pressure arrived, there would be no hesitation left in her game. That's why when people say she shoots from anywhere, it's not confidence, it's conditioning that most players never build. But success always has a shadow. And hers came early. The moment she started dominating college basketball, the conversation stopped being about her skill and started becoming about everything else. Was she too flashy? Was she getting too much attention? Was she being marketed differently? And this is where most athletes begin to break. But instead of shrinking, she expanded into it. That's another hidden layer of her mindset. She doesn't run from pressure, she absorbs it like fuel. Every criticism became a target. Every doubt became a scoreboard in her mind. People underestimate how mentally exhausting it is to be the center of a national debate every single game. Imagine scoring 30 points and still leaving the court feeling like you have to prove something tomorrow. That's the environment she lives in, and instead of avoiding it, she studies it. She watches how defenses shift, not just physically, but emotionally. She notices when opponents start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. That awareness is what separates her from other stars. She is not just playing basketball. She is reading people in real time. Another secret most fans never see is how controlled her emotional reactions are. On camera, she might look expressive, even frustrated at times, but what's happening underneath is calculation. Every reaction is measured. Every moment of visible emotion is part of a larger rhythm. Because at this level, losing emotional control means losing control of the game itself. She understands that the spotlight is not just watching her performance, it is waiting for her collapse. And she refuses to give it one. But the most controversial part of her rise is not her success, it's the pressure that comes with it. There is a growing expectation that she must not only dominate, but carry entire narratives on her shoulders. Ratings, rivalries, comparisons, debates, everything gets attached to her name. And the more she wins, the heavier it becomes. It creates a strange paradox. The better she plays, the less room she has to simply exist as an athlete. Behind the scenes, what fuels her is something far less glamorous than highlight reels. It's routine, cold, repetitive, almost mechanical discipline. Early workouts when no one is watching. Film sessions where she studies not just her own mistakes, but the patterns of entire defenses. She doesn't just prepare for games, she prepares for psychological warfare on the court. Every defender who steps in front of her is already part of a mental map. She has studied hours before tip-off, asterisk, and here's where the story shifts into something deeper. Because success at this level doesn't just attract fans, it attracts resistance. The more dominant she becomes, the more the game adapts to her. Defensive schemes get tighter. Physical contact increases. Every possession becomes a test of endurance disguised as competition. And still, she keeps finding space where there is none. That is not luck. That is spatial intelligence developed through thousands of repetitions and a mindset that refuses to accept limitations, but there is a hidden cost. When someone becomes this central to a sport's attention, their identity slowly gets divided. There is the player on the court, and then there is the symbol the world projects onto them. For Caitlin Clark, that line has started to blur. Every shot is no longer just a shot, becomes a statement. Every game is no longer just a game. It becomes evidence in a larger argument about greatness, legacy, and comparison. And yet, what makes her story so compelling is not perfection, it's resistance. Resistance to pressure. Resistance to expectation. Resistance to the idea that she must fit into any pre-written narrative. That resistance is what keeps her unpredictable. That's why defenders struggle, not because they don't know what she does, but because even knowing it doesn't stop it from happening. There is also a quieter truth about her success that rarely gets discussed. She understands timing better than most players in the game, not just timing in shooting or passing, but timing in momentum. She knows when to accelerate a game and when to let it breathe. She knows when to silence a crowd and when to let tension build. That control over rhythm is what makes her dangerous beyond statistics. She is not just participating in games, she is conducting them. But with every rise like this, there is always a question hanging in the air. How long can it last? Not physically, but emotionally. Because carrying this level of attention is not sustainable for most athletes. The spotlight that builds you is the same one that tests how long you can stand in it without changing who you are, and that brings us back to the most important secret of all. Her success is not built on avoiding pressure, it's built on redefining it. Where most players see pressure as weight, she treats it like resistance training, something that strengthens rather than destroys, something that sharpens rather than breaks. Still, the story is not finished. In fact, it feels like it is, only entering its most unpredictable phase. Because the higher she climbs, the less predictable everything becomes. The defenses get smarter, the expectations get louder. The margin for silence disappears, and in that environment, even greatness is constantly tested. So the real question is no longer about how she got here. It's about what happens next, when. The entire basketball world is watching her, not just as a player, but as a phenomenon that refuses to slow down. And somewhere in that unfolding story, the biggest chapter still hasn't been written. Asterisk, this is where the story of Caitlin Clark becomes bigger than basketball itself. Because what you've just seen is not just a rise in skill or fomits, a rise under pressure that most people never truly understand. And if there is one thing that defines her journey, it's the ability to keep moving forward even when every spotlight, every headline, every expectation is pulling in different directions at once. Now think about what you just watched unfold. The discipline, the repetition, the mental strength, the way she turns pressure into performance instead of fear. That is not just talent. That is a mindset most athletes never reach. And this is exactly why her story keeps growing, keeps evolving, keeps pulling the entire sports world into every single game she plays. If moments like this inspire you, stories like this make you see sports in a different way, then don't. Just leave it here. Because every game she plays is writing a new chapter, and every chapter changes how we understand greatness, pressure, and success. Drop a comment right now and tell what you think is the real secret behind her dominances. It's skill, mindset, or something even deeper that people are missing. Your opinion matters because this conversation is bigger than one player. It's about how legends are built in real time. And if you don't want to miss stories like this, make sure you stay connected, because the next breakdown might reveal something even more shocking than this one. The journey is not over. It's only getting started.